Hey everybody, welcome back to the garage. If this is your first time visiting my channel, please go ahead, click on subscribe, and also click on the bell to receive all the updates on my channel as well as the Sled. Also check me out on Instagram. Alright, so the time has come to finish the paintwork on the hood of the XCR. If this is your first time finding my channel, please go ahead, click on the playlist, and that will get you up to date as far as all the work that's transpired up to this point. Alright, so about a month ago, we went ahead and removed the hood, we painted it, and it's been about 4 weeks, and we've been essentially letting it cure. And honestly, I've been agonizing about this day for the last 3 or 4 weeks, whether or not to wet sand it or not, because this is relatively new to me. I've never done this before, and my fear was, I'm going to ruin this thing by trying to wet sand it. And needless to say, I've been doing a lot of research and everything else, trying to figure out, best practices and everything else. And I'm happy to say I've done a small section on the hood. Essentially, it's been this section right here. If you guys remember when I first painted it, I had a pretty sizable sag or run on that side, and essentially that's what I went after first. So, and I'm happy to say that the run is completely gone, and the paint is flat, and it's really starting to shine up and everything else. So, with that being said, what we're gonna do is I'm gonna show you what I've done so far, and we'll go from there. And then I'll show you the process on what I did to get to this point. So let's go take a look at it. Okay, so the section I did was essentially everything below the white, right? The white portion of the hood. I did the corner and this whole section. So if you may or may not remember, but the sag or the run was right here. There was one good one right here, and then there was another small one right up there. And I spent probably about a half an hour on this section. And I know the lighting's not the best in the garage, but what I'm gonna try to do is I'm gonna try to get to the hood, close to the hood as best as I can. And it really came out very good. The sag is completely gone. Pretty much all the orange peel has been taken out, and the paint is shining up pretty well. To say I'm happy would be an understatement. So, all right. So what we're gonna do next is we're gonna do the rest of the hood. We gotta start on the upper section and essentially do those 3 spines, whatever they are, on the front of the hood and front of the light bucket and on the opposite side. All right, so let's get to it. I'll show you what the process is, and a lot of it is just time and technique and everything else. There's really nothing really too crazy about this as far as materials or anything like that. All right, so why don't we get to it? So as far as materials, it's pretty basic. You just need a bucket, some clean water, a spray bottle with some water, and a couple drops of dish soap. And I'm using 2000 grit wet dry sandpaper. Again, the hood on this, I had very little orange peel when I did this. So I said, I'm going to try 2000 first without going up through the sections of the various grits that you can use. So I went straight to 2000, tried that, and it actually worked out pretty well. You can get wet sand as far as 600, 1,000, 1,500, 2,000, 25, and I think it goes all the way up to 5,000. But 2,000 is working pretty well for me. So depending on how much orange peel you have to start with, you may have to go with the more aggressive grits. As far as what I'm using essentially, this is just a sanding sponge that is commonly used for drywall, right? So what I did is I cut the sanding sponge to fit the width of the sandpaper, and I'm just using that as a block to conform to the hood. I'm not using my fingers, hand sanding. I'm doing everything on this particular block. Okay. All right. So what we're gonna do is, and I'm gonna try to give a good indication of what the paint looks like right now. So if you look. Go nice and slow. If you look where that reflection's coming off, that's a pretty good indication of what we're starting off with. And I can tell you the lighting on this, as far as the way the the camera's picking it up, it makes it look 50 times worse than it actually is. And in reality, the paint is pretty flat. So, but this will just give you a kind of a starting point of what we're starting off with. Okay, so what you want to do is, you know, the secret to wet sanding is making sure your surfaces are always wet. So, be pretty liberal on the liquid, right? You always want to make sure it's nice and wet. And what you want to do is, you're not going to be pushing down on it or anything like that. You're essentially just going to be letting your paper and your sponge just glide right over it. And what you'll do is, as you're doing it, you'll feel it drag and basically skate over it, and then you'll get some resistance. As soon as you feel getting some resistance, spray it down with some more soap and water, and that'll go from, and essentially that'll help the lubricity of it. You never want to get this thing dry, because what will happen is you'll start digging into the clear coat and you'll start making lines in it. All right, so what we're gonna do is I'm gonna start working on this section and this spine right here. Okay, so we've gone after this with the 2000, and what you can see is, or hopefully you can see it, is the finish has essentially gone to opaque, right? And if we look, what you can see is some shiny spots, right? And those are spots that are still essentially lower than the rest of the surface. So what you need to do is essentially just keep going at it, again, very gently, and just keep working at it until you get a smooth, chalky finish, right? It's gonna be completely matte. You may start panicking, saying, oh my God, what have I done? But you know what? This is just the first step in the process of making it look good. Okay, so after about roughly half an hour, 45 minutes, I've gone over the entire hood with the 2000. And you know, I'm not doing it on any of the upper stuff, because for the most part that came out pretty flat, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it. But at this point, we're at a uniform matte finish, and we're essentially at this point ready. We're almost ready to go to the next step. So at this point, what you want to do is kind of go over your work, and if you can see, I still have a pretty good shiny spot right here, so I gotta hit that again. I didn't quite get back far enough in here, but that's fine. Same thing over here. So again, it's really up to yourself when you're working on something like this, how much time you want to spend on it, and you can go from there. But at this point, I'm going to spend probably about another 15 or 20 minutes just hitting the spots that I missed. And then what we'll do is we're going to go to the rubbing compound next and start bringing this thing back to life. All right, so for the next step, I'm using rubbing compound and a hand applicator. You know, some people, you know, if they really know what they're doing, which I don't, you know, some people could use a rotary buffer, but you know what, I don't trust myself with it. I don't have enough experience with it, based on previous results. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the applicator, and essentially going to go around the entire thing and just basically hit it with rubbing compound. The applicator is slightly wet, it's damp, just to help it out a little bit, and just go to it. And so why don't we go ahead and do that, and we'll get this thing rubbed out, and then we'll go to the next step. Okay, so essentially I've done this section above the white and around the corner. So if we look, and again, the lighting in here is horrible, so you have to just bear with me. Where you can see is, you'll see the transition of the rubbing compound to the matte surface. Again, you're not going to see a huge improvement at this point, but you will see a lot of the milkiness and the chalkiness go away, which is fine. Because essentially what we're doing is we're essentially removing the majority of the sanding scratches. But if you look, you're still going to see they're not completely gone. That's fine. Don't worry about it. So what we're going to do is we're going to get everything to a consistent result, and then we'll go to the next step. And I assure you it's going to look a lot better once we go to the next step. So be patient. Okay, so now that I've hit the entire hood with the rubbing compound and the little applicator, you know, a lot of the chalkiness is gone. It's looking better, but it's not looking great. All right, so the next step is, and this is where all the magic is going to happen, is we're using Meguiar's Ultimate Compound. I'm using just a random orbital polisher, and the secret is I'm using a wool pad. So between the wool pad and the Ultimate Compound, this is a little bit more aggressive than doing the hand application with the rubbing compound, but it's still safe where I feel I'm not going to get myself into trouble. You know, that's why I did on the first section, and it came out great. So, same thing, we're going to essentially do this one section at a time and go from there. Alright, so that's after one pass of the Ultimate Compound. What we'll do is we'll go over the entire sled, and then we'll probably do it again. Okay, so this is the results after going around one pass with the machine and the Meguiar's Ultimate Compound. Came out pretty well. You know what? I'm pretty happy with it. For something I did in the garage in my first attempt at really painting anything. You know, is it perfect? No, but you know what? That really wasn't the expectation of it. But you know what? At the end of the day, I am very happy with it. You know, there's a couple things I still need to do. I still need to spend some time on these intake or vent areas because of the way the machine is shaped, it's very difficult to get in there. So doing that by hand. But you know what? At the end of the day, very happy with it, considering what we had to start out with. So, so the next step is we're going to be putting the graphics on there, and that'll be in the next video. Probably won't get to that today. Probably going to do that tomorrow morning. I am on vacation this week, and I spend some time with the family. Otherwise, they're going to kill me. But you know what? It's come along pretty nicely. What we'll have to do is, you know, once it's all said and done, we'll have to get it out in the sunlight and see how it pops on the sun. Because right now we're under this fluorescent light, and it's not the best, but actually it's kind of good because fluorescent lights actually show every defect. So which could be a good thing or a bad thing, but you know what? Whatever. So, all right. If there's any questions, comments, concerns, go ahead and leave them in the comments box. I'll get back to you as soon as I can. And as always, thanks for watching and have a great day. See ya. Bye.